Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. So today, me behind the desk, we're gonna get Ian hitting some shots for us. We're gonna be testing the new Callaway Jaws Raw. So Callaway just introduced these, similar to their other Raw, or Jaws wedges, but they've gotten rid of the plating on the face and more of a raw finish, which you would see in a lot of the other brands on the market already. And they also added some new grinds as well.
Yeah, the raw head was an option in MD5, and that was typically what the tour players and the best players would kind of lean towards. So with all these companies, you know, they know the benefits of a raw face, that you can retain a little bit more sharpness to the grooves without a plating going over the groove and dulling the radius, etc. You don't really want a plating on top of the raw steel because it can change the feel off the face and things like that. So as we've seen from other wedges on the market, which is becoming a bit more of a common thing, a sort of plated body for that shelf appeal, because we know that that matters. And obviously the raw face, you know, for that benefit, you know, of the softer feel and the increase in spin, that also matters. So it's kind of give you the best of both worlds. And like you say, some extra grinds, really one specific new grind. We've seen the S grind, the X grind, the W grind before, but the new one is what you're holding is the Z grind. That's the new tri-sole Z grind that Callaway are really excited about.
Yeah, so essentially it's got a little bit more toe grind, heel grind, mid grind as well. It's very versatile, would you say? Is that kind of the idea behind it?
Very versatile, yeah. I mean, whether you want to lay it open, whether you want to lean the shaft and play something that's going to come in and skip in a little bit lower. I mean, you've got all three sort of parts of the sole that you would want to access and have a little bit of a reduction in mass around in order to get the sole to slide a little bit more. You can pretty much play, you know, any shot with that. Whereas obviously the W, I'm using the 54W here, that sole and the W is so wide, you know, so sharp on the trail edge. You really don't have any option other than a pretty square face or a slightly forward leaning shaft setup. So the Z is very versatile.
Right. Okay, so let's get you starting off with the 54W grind.
Yep, thank you, Johnny Wonder. We stole this out his bag earlier. Callaway were kind to send us some wedges for testing, but it was 260s. We obviously don't just like to test one loft. We like to see what the wedges perform like at various lofts. And you know, one thing with the design of these wedges and wedges from other companies is the CG is moved into a spot that is appropriate for that wedge, for the loft on that wedge. What we tend to find is that when we've got less loft, the CG moves up a little bit, tends to get the ball flight to come out, you know, a little bit flatter, that type of thing. So, you know, we've got the CG exactly where we want it for a 54, and then when we test the 60, we'll see the adjustment to that.
Perfect. Okay, we'll get you hit a couple. Swing there. Get in.
Need a little spin and we've got a chance. Greens are firm.
In terms of a 100-yard shot, is there a spin window that you're generally like to see it in?
Anytime I see it, probably with sand wedge, north of 10.
Okay.
North of 10 is about right. Yeah, I'm always trying to be as neutral as I can with these wedge shots, and I try not to see it kind of go on either side. So delivery-wise, path at 0, face, pretty neutral as well would be pretty ideal.
Much where you want it.
The evolution of golf clubs, I think, is going to be, over the next few years, about making shots perform as close to one another as they possibly can with varying differences in the swing. That was a great example. The previous one spun at 10,600. That one was not nearly as good of a strike. It spun at 10,700.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, you struck the sound was different. Everything
totally
looked different there.
Not nearly as good.
The numbers were very, very similar in how the ball reacted. Yeah.
That's going to be, you know, people will, I think, be tired of us saying it by the end of it, but it is just these refinements of the technology, of the design characteristics in order to basically get, you know, the same result regardless.
So something with a wedge like this, is that just the kind of weighting at the bottom, the tungsten?
Yeah, exactly. Moving the tungsten, it can be the way the sole performs. Typically on wedges, if we do catch them a hair thin, they do quite well.
Yeah.
We can see how much meat is in that lower half of that wedge and how much meat is up there. Very, very little. So you don't want to be missing it up there. if you're going to miss a wedge anywhere, a groove down is probably the ideal spot.
Yeah, I'd say that's something I've noticed a lot in wedges the last 10 years or so, is slowly you'll see a chunkier bottom, more meat at the bottom of it, thinner top. Really good swing. Yeah, really nice. How's it feel?
Good, feels very nice. I'm used to playing raw wedges. I've played SM8 and then SM9 raws. I don't really like a wedge that gives me any audible feedback, like there's something going on.
Yeah.
Don't like tech in there at all. Doesn't feel or sound like there's anything for me to, worry about with this. It's just a very solid sounding golf club.
Yeah, really nice. And another thing I really like about the like a raw face style is for setting up. When it rusts, it kind of gives you a nice visual to the ball.
Yeah. With
the face kind of rusting up. That's something that I really like with that style instead of the whole club rusting.
Totally. I think one thing that has been, we've talked about it a little bit with other wedges, but a little bit of a misconception is that the rust adds spin.
Yeah.
It adds variance is what it does. Whether the rust is dry, whether the rust is wet, you do get some variance in performance. We don't really want a rusty face. We just want a raw face.
Yeah, raw.
We don't want to be caked in orange rust. So, that's one thing that's important. If you do, maybe play on the coast, or you've the last shot you hit of the day was a bunker shot on a wet day. Next time you get your club and it's just an orange club face, you want to clean that off. You want to kind of take that back and make sure you've got as much of the golf ball on that surface as you possibly can, rather than being sandwich or the rust sandwich between the ball and the face, where you're going to end up with some kind of slick for the ball to slip off and reduce the friction. Not ideal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right, let's try. So that one, really good. Nothing negative to say about those at all. Let's have a try the 60s.
Okay, so we're going to switch here. A little 50-yard shot. We're going to start with the new grind, the Jaws Raw 60Z.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one that's got a little bit of versatility to it. It's got the grind off obviously the toe, the heel, kind of everywhere. Leaves you with very little that you can't do with it.
Yeah, it's got relief kind of everywhere you would need it.
Yeah.
If you were thinking of taking a little bit off here or there, taking it to the grinding wheel, I'm kind of sure it would look like this.
Yeah.
I mean, very much reminds me of that Tiger sole, that Tiger grind on there as well, where there's trail edge and leading edge relief. It looks really good.
Do they have a lot of tour guys using this one?
There is, yeah,
quite a few.
lots of guys. Actually, a very popular one last week. With the tighter turf conditions, players looking to try. You've seen as it got baked out and stuff. I saw in the last day, Rory and Cam Young, both on 16, drove it onto the walkway deep on 16. They cannot get that strike high enough up the face to control it. So the launch ended up so low, so much speed that they could do nothing but just get that forward bounce in the first shooter. That's why you need that low bounce option on the links, because you're trying to move that strike up the head ever so slightly. You're lucky if you get 1/8 of an inch of turf coming up with that, which is basically only going to take you maybe up to groove 1.5. It's very tough.
Yeah, it's like hitting a shot off your dining room table.
Basically.
Pretty much has to be caught perfect.
All right, a little 50-yarder. A little chunky, a little clumsy.
Good miss.
Actually, was quite a good miss.
Yeah, still quite a bit of spin on that as well.
You can see where that it's a brand new wedge, so the strike was a little higher than I would want it. So that's why the launch was up at 33. Ideally, most of the time we're going to look for the launch to be about half of the loft in the club. Okay. So about 30 would be nice. Maybe the really spinny ones might be 29 or so.
Okay. A little more
That
clip.
should be, a little more clip. That should be maybe 31, 32 again. But spin went up a little bit.
9100, yeah. I can't do that.
Yeah, this is a nice grind. This is something I would like to play something like this. That felt like I can just slide the club under there.
Is it similar to something that you play already? Are you in that same kind of wheelhouse?
I play a very similar low bounce. I play a 62. My highest loft is a 62.06 SM9 that was a 60.04 L grind, bent weak to take a little offset, straighten the leading edge, and kind of the grind lines were smoothed off on it. So yeah, I love playing that little shot there where you just, it's almost just like you know, lean the shaft back slightly, hinge it up, and then just kind of pull across it.
Yeah.
And just, you know, kick the spin up a little bit.
Yeah, 9,600, that's getting up there. Be interesting too with the black finish, but raw. I've never seen that.
It's good. I mean, it gives you, talk about, you know, the way it frames the ball and stuff like that. It's nice. The black head does give a feel of being a bit more compact, which is quite good. You get that little bit of a indication as to where you struck it. I'm striking those a hair in the toe, not anything new for me. You actually get a little bit extra spin out of that low kind of toe area. So it's pretty much ideal for the way I want to hit it. And again, that one there, just clipping it a bit more and getting the spin over 10,000 from 53 yards is
pretty good.
Pretty
so
high.
It's pretty much doing everything you'd want in a...
Definitely.
Okay, so we'll switch it to the it's 10 degrees of bounce. What grind's that? S grind?
This is the S, yeah. 2 degrees more bounce in the S. Yeah, and a modification to the S grind as well with this one, in the sense that the S grind, as typically we see with other companies' S grinds, there is a little ribbon off the back, a little kind of grind off the back, just to take away the sharpness of the edge like we see in the W. But the addition of the leading edge grind on the S, so it doesn't quite have the same curvature as the Z. The Z's probably a little better if you like to open it a little bit in the way I was kind of playing them at the end there. But this does have some good versatility. This probably is the one that more people should go to over the Z, I would think. I think that 2 degrees extra bounce with the kind of 3 parts to the sole is probably what people need.
I was going to say, for the everyday golfer that maybe gets a little steep, the 8 degree bounce and a 60 could get Dig City, or it could it might not do all the things that it was doing for you. Yeah,
exactly. And if you do tend to be that steeper player, even the next one up, the X grind, is a very popular one. Right. That's kind of like a higher bounce version of these. You know, what people might know more commonly as the D grind at titles, that type of thing. So there is some relief and some contouring to the sole, but it does come with a slightly higher starting bounce.
Yeah, makes sense.
Some subtle changes to the shaping. That the leading edge has been straightened out a little bit. You can definitely see that. The head is just, it's maybe a little bit more in that player's tour shape than some of the other Callaway wedges I've seen over the last few years. This will be really, really popular. I think there's not many people who'll pick this off a shelf and have something to pick about the looks on it.
Well, my initial thoughts when I first saw it, again, I've never used a Callaway wedge, but I really liked the way they looked. Yeah. Kind of at, looking down at it, which again, is so important for a lot of people.
So important. I'll firmer that one, but that's maybe a little bit more of that driven flight.
Okay. So a lot of spin.
Lots of spin, isn't there?
Yeah, that's a pretty big amount, and it really hasn't changed that much. You've pretty much been over 9,000 with every shot you've hit with both so far.
And that would be very stock standard in terms of the flight I'd be looking for on a 50-yard pitch. Just drive it in there, hop, hop, stop.
Yeah, it's nice there. So another thing Callaway kind of has talked about is the variable length hosels, kind of engineered to control trajectory. Do you feel any difference with that? If it's something that you would notice?
Probably just a subtlety to the design versus something that, you know, people will really notice. But yeah, you know, the hosel has a lot of mass that people focus very much on the head, and, you know, the tungsten that goes into the head to pull CG, you know, away and things like that. But the hosel plays a real role in, you know, making a slightly longer hosel will allow the CG to move up and in a little bit. So that can drive the flight down a little bit. So, you know, this is something that companies don't talk about much, but they're always adjusting hosel length and that type of thing. So all the little nuances of design, and with somebody, you know, as knowledgeable and as experienced as Roger Cleveland is, he's always perfecting these little nuances. Okay, if we add this to the toe, we need to add this to the heel, and they're just always looking for that nice balance of a good launch, good spin, consistency, like we were saying.
Yeah, 100%. Anything to help flight a wedge, too, I think. A little thin, but...
Yeah, it's just in that little low heel part again, but...
Still, just the spin hasn't changed.
No, feels good, performs really, really good. I literally couldn't pick anything. I couldn't pick anything out about this that I don't like, Mac. I really couldn't. It's
As you said, I
excellent.
think the important thing is like not always going to strike it where you want it, and I think having that ability to miss-hit it and still
Yeah.
have it perform is so important for everyone that is out there just playing every day. I
Totally.
think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, variety of shots, whether you're playing back foot pitches, whether you're playing, some of these shots where I'm trying to kind of sit the shaft more vertical than anything, trying to utilize. I mean, obviously the high bounce part of this wedge is kind of more middle because we've got the trail edge and the leading edge relief. So, depending on where you lean that shaft, you're gonna look for impact on one of the parts of the sole here, and you can play it so many different ways, which I love.
Yeah, no, it looks like it's doing everything we want it to.
Definitely.
Yeah, really good there. In terms of shaft, what do we have in the stock option for the shaft there?
So dynamic gold spinner, 115 grams with VSS. So going really for the feel, the VSS, like we've seen in shafts like the Elevate shaft, the vibration suppression system, just trying to, take away any of that unwanted vibration, improve the feel, all those things that really psychologically are good to feel like you've hit a lovely shot. That was one of the best strikes I've put on it there.
Yeah,
And
that
I could feel
sounded
it.
super solid.
Yeah, that was really, really good. So, trying to make all components of the wedge, make you feel like you've hit a really nice shot. And if you don't, try and mask a little bit the unwanted vibration that you're likely to feel from it. 115 grams is about the sweet spot. If most people are playing around 100 to 110 grams in their iron shafts, I would say that's what we see. That's the real sweet spot and weight for most golfers that come in our doors. So a little bit heavier, a little bit softer. The spinner designation tells us we've got a little bit of a longer tip section. That's what allows the shaft to flex a little bit more and have a little bit more of that feel and kick, if you like. It's not going to add a ton of spin. I mean, I know there's claims out there, it's extra 400 or 500 RPMs. It's not.
No,
it's unlikely to be.
And how much is that 400 really going to make?
Yeah, exactly. Like we could hit shots at 9,000 spin and hit shots at 9,400 spin. Are we going to tell a difference? No, they're going to hop and stop exactly the same. But it feels great. You've got that softness. It feels not harsh. It doesn't feel like we need to do something, out of the ordinary or out of our comfort zone in order to load a pitch shot. We never want that. That's why we talked about it earlier with my own clubs. Playing 8-iron shafts in the wedges gives me a softer feel. An 8-iron shaft is designed to flight the ball up with less loft. And then when we put that shaft into a wedge, you get that same feel and kick, but you have it with more loft that just feels a little bit smoother, softer.
And then we had the Catalyst and the Z-grind. Did you feel much there? Is it obviously a little soft?
I know. I was interested
soft,
about that because, when I grabbed it and I went, oh, geez, this could be interesting. Didn't feel that bad. I mean, we've experimented with Gareth Raflewski on that in the past, going with some lighter, softer shafts and wedges. It's not the worst thing in the world. The little Franken wedge we built for him felt okay, but I think from a consistency standpoint, probably wouldn't be what I would, when I'm out in the golf course, fine in here, hitting shot after shot after shot. If I'm in the golf course and I've just hit 7-iron, 180, and then I'm into the bag for a wedge in the next shot and I'm just reducing the weight by 45 grams, I've got a little delicate touch shot. That's not comfortable for most people.
Yeah, and as soon as you maybe step into it a little bit further distance, it might start feeling a little different as well.
Definitely. But good that there is a little option in there.
Yeah.
Again, lots of people out there playing 60 to 70 gram iron shafts. An 80 gram Catalyst is a nice little addition for a stock option.
Absolutely. Okay, guys, so hopefully you enjoyed that video. Callaway, obviously, lots of new grinds. The raw face seems to be a pretty good feel for you there, that you perform pretty well as well. So let us know if you get a chance to go out and try those. Maybe you've used the old Jaws wedges and have upgraded to these. Let us know what you think. Stay tuned for lots of new videos coming soon. Lots of gear starting to finally roll into the shop again. So lots of cool stuff to bring you. We'll see you soon.